Hi, this is a quick review of the homework for Advanced Rails week 1. And since I'm a little late on the homework, I'm just going to do a review of the 4 parts of the homework. And the first part is to check that the um, object created is a valid object. So let's go and take a quick look at the code and the specs for that part. So at the top of the file, we have all the different tests that we want to pass when we create a new instance of Oracle of Bacon. And actually, the code itself is pretty straightforward, even though I still managed to get caught by something. So here we can see that we have the different validations, and we have a custom validation that's going to happen through this from does not equal to method. In that method, what we want to check on is if the from instance variable is the same as the to instance variable, in which case, since we cannot have that, we'll add an error, and having an error in the errors collection is going to be seen by the validation framework as failing validation. So this is one syntax where we use the base as, so instead of a specific attribute of the object, we use base to show that it's a validation that is being done on the whole object itself, and not one of its attributes. Playing with the mistake I had made, or trying to figure out the mistake I had made, and playing with some code to figure out what was going on. I had also tried this other syntax where we use a method add to the errors collection with the symbol base as the first argument, and then the message as the second argument. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that method. It's really that simple. The test is a really straightforward one. And then the initialize methods, which was given as like this. I just needed to add from, to, and the assignment of the API key, which, this is Ruby notation. If nothing is being passed, then it'll default to whatever value is given here in the signature of the methods. And I had forgotten to add this line, so of course I never had a valid API key, and my test would fail. So anyway, once I had that figured out, everything worked fine. So that's the first part of the homework. The second part of the homework looks at how we can actually parse the XML that would be returned by the Oracle of Bacon website. So in this part, we use Nogokiri and XPath in combination, which actually makes it very straightforward to add the code for this section. So let's take a quick look at the specs, and here we have the section parsing XML response. So we're trying the different scenarios that can happen where we have an unauthorized access or invalid API key. So basically the website telling us that it has found that we're trying to do something that we shouldn't be doing with it. Then we have a normal match where we're getting back a graph. In other words, a combined list of actor names and movie names. And finally, where we have a spell check match, so it's going to return a list of names. So there's, in other words, we placed an ambiguous query, and then the catch-all case where it's something that doesn't fall in one of those three buckets. So here we've got the code, so that's going to be in the response class, which appears at the bottom of the file. And what we're doing is in the initialize method of the response object, we get some XML as a string. So we leverage Nogokiri XML to get an XML document. And from there, we just go ahead and pass the response. In that method, we do the different cases, and for each case we're going to call a separate method that will handle each one of those cases. And so the first method, parse error response, was given to us. Parse unknown response is a pretty straightforward one as well. So type is unknown, data is unknown response. That's what we're given. And then we have, let's jump to the last one, parse spell check response. So the type is spell check, and with thanks to XPath on our documents, what we're going to do is we're going to basically look up all nodes that match keywords, and because those are nodes and special objects, they're not strings per se, then we have to do a quick collect to get the text of each one of those. And basically that's our collection of names that we're going to return as the data. And finally, for the parse graph response, the type is graph, and we're going to parse our XML document with XPath, retrieving all actors, and same thing, we're getting back node objects, so we have to do a quick collect to get the text of each one of them. We do the same thing for the movies, and once we've got both, then leveraging those very handy methods that were hinted to us, then we can do an actors.zip movies, and flatten all of that so we have just an array of strings, and to get rid of the trailing nil that was appended, then we use compact, and that's it. We've got our data. So again, some very nice and readable code there. So very exciting. And here we go. It gives me 29 examples with 0 failures. Oops, let me go back here. We're not done yet. Getting too excited about next part, the third part, where we're going to create the URI. So a few tests that we need to validate here as well. But if we look at the code here, here we go. So make URI from arguments. And really the key thing is really the use of CGI escape. So the whole string here is the URI that we want to leverage to access Oracle of Bacon.org, and we have 3 arguments: API key, from, and to, and each one of them needs to be escaped. So we leverage CGI .escape on each one of them, and basically that's it. And just embed that in the string using the Ruby notation here, and yeah, that's it. It's really that simple. So again, very straightforward, very nice codes. Not quite sure I can go as far as calling it beautiful code, but hey, that's probably as close as beautiful code can get. And finally, in the last part, we're testing using fake web, the creation of the connection. So in this part, we're going to handle any error that would be related to accessing the web here. So let's take a look at the code, and let me scroll up a little bit. So in the method find connections, we make the URI from arguments. That's what we just looked at. And from there, we do URI dot parse our argument, the URI that was just created below, and read from it, which if everything works fine, should return the XML that we are then going to leverage in the initialize method of the response class. So we create a new response with that XML, and we got our response and our response object. And of course, if something happens, then here we see that we've got a bunch of different exceptions that could happen. So we rescue all of that and raise our own Oracle of Bacon network error with the original message that's being used. And we can see this is thanks to this notation here, where we basically assign the exception object to some variable that is available after that in the raise section. And again, that's pretty much it. So if I go back to the terminal, I can see that indeed I have all the tests that pass just fine, including those last two tests. And that's it. Thank you very much.